I am essentially caught up to One Piece. I have like 5 chapters to go. I'll probably get them read tomorrow, but I thought it was about time that I start making more regular One Piece content. Speculation videos, character analysis videos, plot thread analysis, arc recaps, my opinions on things, right? I've been a fan of One Piece, I think longer than most people in the States. I have been since the Four Kids dub back in the day. Since the the Syrup Village arc. Seeing that fight between Luffy and Captain Kuro, like the Black Cat Pirates, was life changing for me. I loved that, and of course you get the peak Kino of uh, Baratier after that, and then Arlong Park after that, right? Again, I was hooked from the beginning, right? And I was unable to get caught up on One Piece until just recently. There were all these like weird barriers in the way, right? The accessibility of the anime, the fact that the anime was padded out to, and then like getting my hands on all the manga volumes. It was like I had to like start over several times to finally find a way to access the manga, read it consistently, get through it, and get caught up week to week. Right? It's taken me this long to get to like chapter 1116 or whatever I'm on right now. Like it's taking me this long to get caught up on One Piece. So obviously I'm a big fan. Uh, I am going to have to reread the entire series again to try and figure out like where the story is going. Talk about things I want to talk about, right? Revisit old arcs, right? I feel like it's been a long time since I revisited the East Blue Saga at this point. There are a lot of things I want to talk about, but right now, I suppose, we are in the final saga now. One Piece is going to end in the next, I don't know, decade or so. What's it going to look like? What is the ending of One Piece going to look like? And I do think with Egghead Island, we are beginning to see like bits and pieces of what is going to happen, right? We do have a setup for what is going on, including like some very big, like deep lore, like things. This is actually a really good time to make this video because I have just been exposed to the deep dark secret of the world government. The world is sinking. It has been for a long time, and this has been very cleverly foreshadowed. I picked on I don't think I picked up on this until Wano, right? The end of Wano, where they go to that underwater city. But like you also have like Water 7, where they state that the storms are getting worse, and Marijoa is like on elevated ground. Almost as if like the celestial dragons are trying to avoid sinking into the ocean. Like there were indications that this was the case for a while now, right? And now we have confirmation of it. Now it's been confirmed, and now it's just a matter of like, well, what does that mean for the overarching plot? What does that mean for the story? And for me, uh, I do think that this specific thing has something to do with One Piece. Specifically, the fact that like Roger landed on the island, saw it, and was just kind of like, "I'm 20 years too early." Like, what does that mean exactly? Does it mean that like the ocean level needed to like rise a little bit for the joke to be perfect or something? Like again, like I think it's like it has to be like some kind of like monument to like Joy Boy's fight against like the alliance, right? The 20 Kingdoms. Like it's some kind of like big fu to them, and it to me, I feel like sinking into the ocean, like the water levels rising, like it was built to emphasize that aspect of the world, right? Like how Joy Boy is going to triumph over the Alliance in spite of everything that went wrong 800 years ago or whatever. Again, purely speculation at this point, but like I do think that like the rising sea level has something to do with like Roger's statement, because like Roger had to have known about it, considering he I believe he's the only character that we know of that has full knowledge of like everything in all the poneglyphs, right? He was able to get to Laugh Tale. Like I think it's safe to say he knew about all of this, right? I think. I don't know. Again, this is why I need to reread the series because I really have no idea. But I'm just kind of spitballing here. But that's kind of my thinking on this. Is that there is a reason why they had to wait 900 years to show up on Laughton, right? There's a reason for it. What it is, I'm not sure, but I think it has something to do with the state of the world and what we know about the plot now. So, what does that mean for the plot? What does it mean for like what's going on in the world right now? The celestial dragons are losing power. I think it's safe to say that like the government is on the verge of collapse. All of their best guys are getting taken out left and right. Like Luffy's not even the biggest threat out there. I think it's still safe to say that like Shanks still has a lot of influence. Blackbeard has a lot of influence. The general population is becoming a threat with the rise of Cross Guild and stuff like that. Like the Celestial Dragons are losing control, and they have been for a long time. Now I'm seeing a lot of real world parallels with this, with like real world situations in which real world leaders try to embarrass and humiliate a population in order to like enact their weird, bizarre, like ritualistic like hatred of them, right? Very similar to real world situations, and it's very similar indeed because of just how it's collapsing. Like it is a very slow, steady like collapse that's not really brought about by the actions of any one person, right? It would be really easy to think that like Luffy is some kind of savior going out like beating the world government, but he isn't. Right? Like the reality is Luffy is doing fundamentally nothing to stop the world government except when they get in his way, right? He only confronts them when the situation absolutely demands it. Nico Robin, that's when he like stopped them the first time, right? Vegapunk, like this is when he's standing up to them again. Like again, it isn't really necessary for a hero to come up and destroy the world government because it's just going to collapse in and around itself. Like purely because the amount of control they want to have over the population is completely impossible. There is no way to regulate what everyone else is doing. There has never been a way to regulate whatever. It's interesting, right? How One Piece has this setup of just having like this tyrannical government that like ostensibly controls everything, and yet somehow they have no real influence on what goes on in like every single island the characters go to. Crocodile is taking over Alabasta. Doflamingo is on Dressrosa doing his thing. Kaido, like Wano is straight up unaffiliated with the world government. Does the world government even know Skypiea exists? Like again, Fishman Island has their own poneglyph that is apparently untouched by them, right? Again, they call themselves the world government. They insist they're all powerful, like, oh, we're immortal. We've been here forever. Like, oh, look at our crazy forms. But the reality is they don't nearly have the amount of power and control that they like to claim they do, right? It reminds me of like a Gandalf statement in Lord of the Rings. This is a very common theme in fantasy. It's just like, Soren's power is not as great as he would want you to think, right? Again, it's the same with real world with real world politicians and what's going on today is that like these people don't have the power that they think they do. And One Piece really does a great job kind of emphasizing that. And as a result of that, right? As a result of that truth, the world government is going to collapse before the end of the story. It's not going to be something that comes about because Luffy discovers Laugh Tale, right? To me, I think this is what Egghead Island is setting up like most of all. When all 5 elders like show up on an island and can't do shit to like the protagonists, like when they can't stop Vegapunk in spite of like throwing everything they have at him, in spite of like everything they've done, like they are completely incapable of maintaining their control over worldly affairs. Vegapunk went rogue. Kuma went rogue. Luffy was never on their side. Like again, like their best guy, Monkey D. Garp, is one of their enemies, right? The hated D, which again, like, is something that I don't really see a lot of people discuss and talk about. But anyway, like again, what are they gonna do? I've said this like since Ennis Lobby. Like actually, I've been saying this for since I first started watching the show. Like it feels like the Navy can't do shit, and that is very that to me seems like it was very intentional from the beginning, right? They can't save anyone, they can't stop anyone, they can't they can't even stop people from like learning about the Void Century. Like they completely failed in the one thing they were trying to do, right? So with that in mind, like the world government is just not going to be able to sustain itself, right? It is going to collapse before the end of the story, right? Once the five elders are defeated, they're basically done, right? Emu still exists, but like nobody knows. Like again, the five elders just exist to like enact his will for whatever reason. So like Emu is going to come out, like there's going to be some major confrontation at some point, right? I don't know exactly what Emu is and what he wants, or like again, I think that Emu is just a decoy antagonist, right? At the end of the day, the real final boss for One Piece, for Luffy, is Blackbeard, right? Like that is been what the actual story has been building up to since Jaya, right? Actually, since like the character was foreshadowed in Drum Kingdom. Like the story has gone to great lengths to like hype up Blackbeard, his philosophy, his background, his relationship to other characters. Whitebeard, his tenure as like a warlord and then an emperor, people he recruited and Impel Down, right? The things he's done, the people he's recruited, like, the his plans for the future, right? Like it is very clear that Blackbeard is the antagonist, not the world government. So what does this mean exactly? Like, what is this mean? What does this mean? At some point during the final saga, the world government is going to completely collapse, and all four emperors are going to like converge on Lapdale. Right? They're all going to be going to the same place. They're all going to be forging alliances with like previous characters. Right? They're all going to land on Lapdale, and they're all going to fight each other. Right? It's going to be like one big battle royale. Like again, like Shanks's motivations are completely unknown at this point. Like I've seen speculation that he might be evil, and I don't know if that's the case or not. Like I do find it interesting how out of all the characters, we seem to know the least about Shanks. He's been there since the very beginning, and yet we still don't know how he fights. We still don't know what his end game is. We don't know why it took him so long to pursue One Piece. Like it's weird when you compare him to like compare him to Buggy and see like Buggy has like goals. He has like a personality, like a clearly defined like role in the story, right? Relationship with other characters. Like Shanks is weirdly kind of an anomaly to the point where like I've seriously wondered if he is going to be like the major antagonist for Luffy in like the next part of the story, right? Going to Elbaf, fighting like the red-haired pirates, doing what Kid could never do, beating red-haired Shanks. Like again, my thinking, considering what happened in Wano, is that like I think that Shanks is going to team up with Blackbeard and Buggy, and it's going to be them versus the Straw Hat Pirates, right? The Straw Hats have to prove themselves better than the other pirates, like every other pirate combined, essentially. And of course, there are going to be like characters on like Luffy's side. I 100% believe that like Vivi is going to join the crew at this point. Like the story seems to be setting her up to do that. I'm sure Yamato's coming back. I'm sure like there's going to be like Shirahoshi. I'm sure is going to do like the One Piece equivalent of the rumbling with the sea monsters. But like uh, I do think like there is going to be this theme of Blackbeard like recruiting people who don't necessarily want Luffy to accomplish his dream, right? Which I believe, and I've seen people point this out before, and I do think I agree with it. This is the best theory I've heard. Uh, my belief is that Luffy's goal is to make everyone a pirate. Like everybody is just considered a pirate in the eyes of the Pirate King, and then like everybody can go out and have their own adventures or whatever. Like everybody can like do whatever they want, like have freedom, right? Uh, that to me seems like what he would want. Again, this is like purely speculation, but again, that's the best theory I've heard, and that kind of leans into like what I think the D stands for, right? Dream, right? Because like, what does like what does Marshall D Teach and Monkey D Luffy have in common, right? They have dreams of living outside the control of the government, right? You know, Emu is very specific about this. Like people like who bear the name D like are empty husks. And what he means by that is that like those people don't want to be controlled by the government. They can't be controlled by Emu, right? Because like they simply dream beyond of like their supposed station in life. You know, life is mere insects to be exploited, right? They see beyond that, right? They understand that their dreams have no limit, right? And this is why I think that the world government is not going to remain a major player for the final part of the story. Is that too many of these people are establishing themselves as major players on the world stage in the new world, right? They cannot deal with like the Luffy's and the Blackbeards or the Shankses forever, right? Like again, it's all just collapsing around itself. But again, purely speculation at this point. My uh, my thinking on this is that there's a very specific there are very specific themes of One Piece that seem to be pointing in like very specific directions, and I cannot wait to see just where Oda takes the story next.